effect. I think she sent it to the chief, but I'm taking her place on the board.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. All right, moving forward, minutes have been distributed. Please review the minutes and looking for motion for approval.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. Communications. Is anybody from communications online?
Just got on. Oh, there's Steve. Yeah.
Okay, I guess no report from communications. Emergency management. I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just got on. No report this time. Sorry for the delay, though.
No worries. Okay, any questions for communications since Steve's online? Okay, hearing none. Emergency management.
Hello, everybody. A couple quick updates out of emergency management. I'll just start with the public assistance stuff because Alex mentioned it earlier. What is released is, just recently more specific guidance pertaining to reopening measures and eligible costs associated with that. That would be PA eligible activities. So a couple things to be mindful of based on the guidance that was released that we'll share out of our office with the communities and the other eligible applicants is that it covers, so it's the policy specifying eligible activities associated with reopening, things like PPE purchases, COVID testing, cleaning, disinfecting, temporary barriers, purchasing and installing them, items like that. And then it's giving a range, a time frame of those types of activities starting in January of this year through September of this year. So, there's some groups and organizations that probably started opening up and those types of activities in advance of that time range or that time frame, January 2021, but that's when it starts. So that is something that is, newly released that will, again, blast out to our distro lists. And also I know any community or applicant that's already in the FEMA system with their applications for PA, you will be given that same policy through that channel as well. They're gonna target all the entities that currently have existing applications in the system. A couple other quick items. I think I mentioned the last meeting that we were still going through our EMAP reaccreditation process. That hopefully is coming to an end pretty soon. If you recall, we were up for our 5-year reaccreditation process through the Emergency Management Accreditation Program. We have been participating in the supplemental period where we're providing additional documents and proofs of compliance to address, the whatever findings that were determined by the assessors. So we're quickly coming to hopefully a close on that, and then can move past our reaccreditation process officially as a reaccredited agency or organization. Couple other quick notes here. So NFL draft, we're participating in planning meetings and contributing to that process. But I'm sure Fred or any other Cleveland folks will probably touch on that in much greater detail than I will. Just want to mention that our office is involved in supporting that effort, which is rapidly approaching. We have no plans to activate the county EOC for that. We will be supporting the city of Cleveland either virtually or in a physical presence in their EOC. Speaking of our EOC, our Board of Elections once again use our space for the May 4th elections that are coming up. They used our space for the first time for the last elections last year, and it worked out really well for them to be able to operate from the EOC, monitor all their polling locations, and resolve any issues that transpired during those activities. So I think we started kind of a tradition with them, and they're going to again use the space for their future elections activities. Wolstein Center, Alex mentioned that. Our office is has had minimal support needs for that. That is largely self-sustaining. we're plugged into the effort there. It's working really well, as I'm sure most of you have all been made aware of through the news and through personal experiences going through that process. But Wolfstein Center, is still an ongoing operation, and they are largely self-contained and have required minimal local support for that. I want to mention a training course that's coming up from our LAPC. They're sponsoring 3 sessions of the Hazmat IQ air monitoring and for flammable liquids classes. It'll be on June 8th, 9th, and 10th. You only need to attend one of those courses. It's a full day course from 8 to 5. It'll be taking place at Brecksville, and registration is on our training on the emergency management training website. Those are my primary updates. I do want to turn over to Brian Kloss from our office. He's sitting right next to me, just to talk about sort of an emerging project with our RTF program. And Brian, you can give a quick update.
Good afternoon, everybody. So just a couple further updates. Just a positive note, PPE, we've officially pushed out 17.1 million pieces of PPE for the duration of the pandemic. That's a lot. It's pretty significant. So we just reached that milestone. Our next large-scale push is going to be the school systems. We're coordinating with the schools, trying to gather data as far as how many students, how many faculty, how many nurses. So over the next week, we'll be reaching out to the schools to engage them to see what type of PPE needs they may have. Over the last several weeks, we've done several proactive pushes. Glad to report the hospital systems, home care, long-term care, hospice, dialysis. We've hit a majority over them over the last 5 weeks and gave them significant caches to improve them, as well as all of our fire departments and our police departments. So PPE is strong, supply chain is good, and so we're looking well there. To Mark's point, while you had me speak up here, Rescue Task Force, this group has probably heard of us discuss this over the last couple of years. It's been a progression, started with CCESAB years ago, Chief Carroll working on it. Obtaining ballistic vests for all of our fire departments within Cuyahoga County. We've worked the last 2 years to build an actual training program. Nationally, there is not a recognized RTF program. So we've, long story short, created a Train the Trainer program that will be launching this summer. The county has provided funding for instructors, so that way we can launch this course over the summer. The goal objective is to conduct at least 5 Train the Trainer sessions, resulting in 150 instructors. At least 2 and 2 law enforcement officers and 2 medics for every department within Cuyahoga County. At the end of this summer, they will now be certified RTF instructors, and we will hopefully have a very successful program. So looking forward to that. So you'll hear some items going with that. That's all I have to report. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks. Let's start with emergency management report. Does anybody have any questions on any of the items we mentioned?
Hi, Mark. This is Beth Gatlin. Hi. Not on an item you mentioned, but I was just wondering if there was any update on the FEMA mass fatality or fatality assistance help with funeral expenses for folks that have died from COVID.
So for those that are unaware of that, FEMA is starting a program for cost recovery associated with expenses incurred for funerals for people that have are deceased from COVID-19 related issues. And so basically where that stands right now, Beth, is call center will be stood up, I think on April 12th officially, and that's when the date that FEMA is going to begin accepting applications for that program. And it'll be obviously it's personal, regular citizens. It's not a program intended for government or other organizations, so people can begin calling this FEMA number to start their application on April 12th. In the meantime, the guidance that has been shared about the program is basically just talking about the types of documentation that will be necessary to initiate the process. But we expect to receive probably more details on the day of or in advance of that April 12th date when they actually start accepting those applications.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think that's really important, especially for the mayors and the community folks to be able to post something on their websites for their constituents that have lost, folks from COVID. It'll help with funeral expenses. Thanks.
Hey, Mark, I want to if I could add one thing real quick. Brian had talked about the RTF money. So this money that's coming from PSJS is going to be spent on providing backfill and overtime for the communities that send the people to the train the trainer class. Because we know that's always one of the issues, the instructors that are coming for the train the trainer. So it's not everybody. I just want to make sure we set the parameters right. So we've got guys that are coming to teach it, and they're teaching 5, 6, 7 times. And that's what the reimbursement's going to be going for. So it's not random stuff. If you've got guys that you've been loaning out teaching it that are going to be teaching this train the trainer at no charge, we're going to make sure those guys backfill in overtime so we're not pulling them 5, 6, 7 times a year on your dime.
Hey, Mark, this is Bruce Elliott. I have one question. Has the county or Cleveland had any discussions about a possible repercussions of the Derek Chauvin ruling that might be coming up?
I can address that. Basically, we do have an incident action plan for the event. We just are on standby at this point, monitoring events like everyone else. But in the event that there is a reaction, we will activate a plan.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing to add to that. I'm sure I see Mike Herb's on the call as well too. I know it's been talking about increase of sit rep frequency and everything else kind of leading up into the summer months. So I'm not sure if Fusion, Mike, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything right now. We're continuing to monitor along with protests that we're starting to see pick up. So those of you that get our sit reps, like Mark said, you can expect that they'll be coming out with more regular frequency as we get new intelligence or more information on any of these events.
Okay, any additional questions for OEM? Hearing none. EMS committee, Bruce?
Hi, EMS met on March 8th. Happy to report we did elect a co-chair or vice chair for the committee. Tom Mound from Brook Park, he was serving in that role. He agreed to accept it and was voted in as the vice chair for the committee for another 2 years. I also was notified today that the MCI trailer equipment that was, some of the equipment that was purchased is set to be delivered sometime next week. I will make arrangements with the other Region 2 communities that got involved in that grant to give them their equipment. The protocol committee continues to meet. We rolled out the latest version of our protocol at the beginning of March. It's on CCOM's website. So agencies have been training on some of the changes in that protocol, and the committee still meets, and we look forward to having updated version early part of 2022. And lastly, our next meeting will be May 10th, and that is all I have for EMS.
Any questions for Bruce, EMS committee? Hearing none. Fire committee. Fire committee did not meet, but the final supplies to the Cleveland Body Armor Project came in, the helmets. So those have been inventoried by the county and distributed to the City of Cleveland Fire Department. So we're glad that that project's finally complete. Fire committee, I imagine, will be meeting here in the next couple of weeks based on the grants report. So any questions for fire committee? Hearing none. Health and medical.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Beth Gatlin from the Center for Health Affairs. The Health and Medical Committee did not meet, so I have no report.
Any questions for health? Any questions for health and medical? Hearing none. Law enforcement, Chief Cannon.
Nothing for law enforcement.
Okay, no report from law enforcement. Any questions for LE? Okay, hearing none. Public Works. Nothing from Public Works, so
I don't think we have anybody on, Mike.
yeah. We'll go on to grants report.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Leslie White from the grants team. Just give me a second to share my screen.
Sharpen your pencils, folks. This is where it gets fun.
Okay. It's sharing now, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll just do a quick update on the status of everything and then get to the part that everyone's here for, right? So UASC 17, this one Ohio EMA had extended through August 30th of this year. The fixed automated license plate recognition system, the installation and that portion of the project is complete, and we're in the process of procuring additional server storage. And the award is with Ohio EMA for review and approval. The radio project, the radios have been delivered and inventoried, and they're currently with the respective radio systems for programming, and that's, we're targeting end of April for that. The helicopter downlink for the city of Cleveland, the insufficient competition was approved by Ohio EMA on 3/26. So we're in the process of contracting with Troll Systems, and then that will go through the county's approval process for the purchase. The EOC video wall, the installation is happening this week and will be completed by tomorrow. The two tablet-based X-ray systems, that project's complete. The PAPR filters, we recently had the second effort closed and received 2 bids, but only one was compliant. So we sent down an insufficient competition to Ohio EMA and followed up today since we haven't heard back on that project yet. The rescue struts are complete, and the dive trailer for the Sheriff's Department, we're currently working on rebidding that through the county's new procurement system. Switching to State Homeland 17, this grant was extended through May 31st of this year. Our 2 portable X-ray processors for Cleveland Bomb, the second effort closed on the 26th, and we're awaiting the tab sheet from OPD. Same thing on the chemical analyzer, that second effort recently closed, and we're awaiting the tab sheet from OPD. So then we'll know where we stand. We don't know how many bids or what the costs were on those yet. The confined space hardline communication system's complete, our generators are complete, and then that technical search training is complete as well. And then the last thing, our hazmat sustainment supplies, that procurement is complete there. State Homeland 18, we recently got that, this grant was scheduled to close at the end of March, and we got an extension to July 31st just to be able to finish out some projects that the procurement was underway but wouldn't be received in time. So we had mentioned the radios already. Those are being programmed by the end of the month. The communication headsets for RTA are complete. The hazmat chemical detection system, we sent an insufficient competition to Ohio EMA for review on the 25th of last month, and it was approved by on the 25th last month, and we're working on processing the purchase through the county's approval process. The mass casualty trailer supply replacement, the PO was sent to the vendor on 3/8, and the supplies are scheduled to ship next week. Switching to FY19, we got an extension on this grant through May 31st of 2022, but that was just in order to do the procurement for the Lake County Air Truck project. So all other projects were, wanting to keep on the original deadline of December 31st of this year. The hazmat sustainment supplies, as I mentioned, in 17, we had sustainment supply replacement, so we'll bid these out in August. The hazmat training, we had a couple of trainings that the team didn't think they would be able to get those courses completed by the deadline because the training wouldn't be offered in time. So that funding is to be reallocated. The hazmat 24-hour full-scale exercise that's combined with USAR. A date has been selected of 8/27, but the formal planning has not begun. Continuing on 19, the USAR training, the advanced structural collapse course. We're working with the project owner on the EHP and the final course specs, and that needs to be completed by the end of August of this year. The USAR heavy rigging equipment specialist or structural collapse training is the same, working on the EHP and the final specs. And that one needs to be completed by the end of September. The training for the advanced structural specialist course, the project owner is to submit a list of attendees for the October course by 4/16. And then we've got the 24-hour exercise again for USAR. It's to be held on 8/27, but formal planning has not begun. The water search training, the technical search course, we're working with the project owner on an underwater investigation course, and the specs are due by 4/9, and the course needs to be completed by the end of August. And then FY20, so this is the first time you're seeing these slides. The performance period on this one is March 31st of 2023. On the 20 grant, this was when we had the regional cybersecurity project, and we're combining funds from LE and the regular state homeland for this project. And it's focused on reviewing the cybersecurity posture and capabilities of Region 2. And we've reached out to the project owner to request specifications. The EOD bomb equipment for Cleveland Bomb, again, the project owner has been contacted and we're awaiting specs. And the hazmat sustainment supplies, will bid those in 2022 as the current supply expires. So switching gears to LE for 17, no changes here. This grant's complete. All projects have been reimbursed and we're just working on closing out the grant. FY18 for LE, the only update here from last time, the vehicle barriers and haulers, that was delivered and it's been inventoried, and we're just processing the invoice, and that project will be complete as well. For LE19, I think this is the same update as last time. Our projects for Cuyahoga County are complete on LE19. For LE20, we have that combined cybersecurity project, and then we have the data collection and analysis software for Fusion, which is Caseware, and we're in the process of renewing that contract with Caseware. The commercial LPR data software, we're working with the project owner on next steps, and the current contract expires at the end of this year. And our social media and open source threat intel platform, the project owner is updating the specs so we can go out to bid on that, and the current contract expires on 10/4. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Mary Beth to have a discussion on reallocation.
Thank you, Leslie. So as we've been going through these purchases, we have finding that we have money available due to a large number of projects that are coming in under budget. My screen has gone black, but I'm assuming on everybody else's screen you can take and see the slide that has the available. Thank you, Nicole. So right now, the bottom line is it looks like we have about $368,000. Now, this is just an estimate because, as Leslie's already mentioned, State Homeland 17 has 2 projects where the bid recently closed, but we don't know what the bid amounts are yet. So that the dollar amount that's available might go up or it may go down depending on the results of that bid. We're requesting that CCESAB accept new projects for equipment and supplies to be reviewed and prioritized by the 5 county emergency managers. In submitting projects, it's going to be important that any project that's submitted, it has to be able to meet the priorities that are set by State Homeland, and it must be an item that we can procure quickly. So anything that has to be bid is off the table. It's going to need to be less than $50,000. So that's what I have there.
Mike, if I could jump in real quick on this. You know, like Mary Beth said, there's money on the table, and that's good and bad. It's good in the fact that we've got money that can be reallocated on some of these grants, and it's lower price, but it's bad because, you know, we've got such a short time frame on some of these. You know, we're looking at State Homeland 17 closing May 31st, 18 closing July 31st, and 19 in December. And UWASI 17 closes August 30th. So that's the bad. It is a short time frame on this, but it's also that some of the things we found, there's been some gross overestimates on how much some of these projects are, you know, and I don't want to beat that dead horse into this, but we had a project come in $70,000 under allocated amount, which is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing that we weren't able to get started on those projects earlier. You know, like Mary Beth said, due to this accelerated timeline, you know, what I'm going to propose, and assuming CCESAB's good with it, especially the executive group, is we've got to have new projects. These projects, you know, they can't exceed 50 grand because of the procurement side of the house. You know, they must be stuff, for a lack of better words. They've got to be things. So it can't be training. It can't be long-term contracts. You know, if it's a sole source item, there's a solid chance we're not going to get it done in time. So you really got to look at not sole source or state contract, because there are a lot of different things that go into that. There got to be multiple places where we can find this stuff. We've also got to make sure that this stuff can be delivered within the time frame, because it's not as simple as having it ordered. We've got to make sure it's received and in practice. So a great way to explain that is the radios that we have. The radios have to be received, programmed, and put on the street by the time the grant closes. Otherwise, don't meet where they're supposed to. So think through that. One of the things that I'm also going to ask is, when we do this, because it's going to be on such an accelerated timeline, everyone that's submitting projects, when you submit an IJ or an investment justification, we're asking and going to ask that you have your specs, your specifications of what it is with that IJ when you turn it in, because there's not going to be a bunch of time to go back and forth and back and forth. As you've seen from the State Homeland, it sounds like law enforcement seems to spend money more efficiently than fire. So tip of the cap to Chief Cannon and his folks. But I have no doubt that the fire chiefs on the call can spend money. So that wasn't a challenge. It was just more of a get the specs,
Easy,
get them in.
Easy.
I know you can spend money, Mike. Don't worry. So when we do that, you know, the other piece to this is, because it's so quick, we're going to have to go bylaw nerd real quick on this. Is we're going to have an emergency meeting set so that we can get this going on, and we can get a ranking and a priority to where Mary Beth and Leslie and the rest of the fiscal team for PSJS can get these things scooting. So, you know, I'm going to work backwards from the proposal. And if everybody agrees with this, I think this is the best way we can go about it. I am proposing that we set an emergency meeting for April 22nd in the afternoon. It can be virtual, 2 or 3. My guess is 2 o'clock is probably the preferable, because there'll be a lot of discussion on these. Unless and I'll get through all this and then shut up, but we've got to notice that correctly, and we've got to make sure that everything's in. So if we have the meeting on the 22nd, that would mean Mary Beth and Leslie and their team need to have all of the IJs and specs from the committees by noon the day before, so they can put it together for review. So that would mean the committees will have to meet by the end of the day on the 20th. The piece that I will also throw out there is, if you have a subcommittee, we have to notice that as well, with at least 24 hours. So when you set your meeting, it can be virtual, which helps a lot of this on the expedited time frame. Let Nicole, who's the clerk of the CCESAB, know what date you're going to have it, what time you're going to have it, and what the link is. So because it's got to be a public meeting, if you need assistance putting together a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams or whatever platform you want to use, that's something Nicole, myself, Kevin Freeze, Mark, we'll make sure we help you get it up and live and going to make sure you can meet. So again, just to rehash, stuff under 50 grand, got to be able to get it from multiple places. We've got to have the IJs and the specs. Subcommittees meet by April 20th, the end of the day. Specs and IJs to Mary Beth and her team by noon on the 21st. And then this group comes back together 2 weeks from now on the 22nd to walk through the rankings of the stuff that comes out of committee. Now, the other one piece, and I lied, I guess this is a PS, but if it is eligible, and remember, there has to be a terrorism. I feel like we've been in this COVID world for too long. It has to have a terrorism nexus. It has to fit the priorities that Larry and Leslie and Mary Beth's team are going to push out. But if it is valid, don't throw it out. Because what I want us to be able to do, and the way I envision this, the only way we're going to be able to fly through all these projects in the next 6 months is we need to have a list of 1 to 50. And when we rank it 1 to 50. And if we get to number 4 and a week or two in, we find out we can't have it, the grants team's got to mark it off and go to 5. And we've got to be able to scoot. So I don't want people to just eliminate projects just because they may not be of high ranking. My thought process is what we can bring into the county and make us better, we should prioritize. That's all I have. I know that was a lot, but Chief Carroll, that would be my recommendation to the chair, to yourself and Mark, that time frame, so that we have an ample amount of time to get stuff in, as well as to be able to talk to the region emergency managers, because if the state homeland stuff and the decisions have to go to all 5 counties, the UASI stuff stays with us. That's it.
Alex, being that some of this is state homeland, do you expect, and the counties could weigh in on it, are they going to want to maybe have some of their projects funded, even though this money was originally allocated to Cuyahoga County?
I would expect it's on the table for them. I think they would be, that group, the 5 emergency managers, Mark notwithstanding, is pretty reasonable and listens to the group and what they need to do. But it is definite, while it was allocated to us, it's not a guarantee that it comes back to us.
And I would like to clarify something. This money is not money that was specifically allocated to Cuyahoga County. These are also projects from those other counties that came in under budget.
Mary Beth, do you have an idea how much came from the other counties?
No, actually, off the top of my head, I do not. Because when we look at, once the grants are prioritized, we just look at them as the total grant and the total pocket. We don't distinguish them by county.
Are other counties looking to spend it?
I'm sorry?
Are other counties looking to spend it as well?
What the process would be, I would assume that yes, the other counties will probably submit. I would expect at least Lake Geauga and Ashtabula to submit a project. They tend to submit projects as one group. Lorraine County rarely does submit a project, and when they do, they tend to be very small. So I would expect that they are going to come in with some projects. What will happen is after the CCESAB meets on the 22nd, I would anticipate that the 5 county emergency managers are going to meet the following day. And at that point in time, we'll also have a picture. They'll be looking at all the projects. If they don't meet the following day, it'll be the following Monday or Tuesday.
Mary Beth, Mark, you probably told me this already, but has the other counties been notified of this? The extra.
No, this is why I'm on your agenda for tomorrow morning.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, it's all coming together. Thank you.
Mary Beth, would you be able to provide a breakdown of what projects are specific to Cuyahoga County? Just so we know if we go into it, if Lake Geauga has to be able to put in for a bigger project, it's not that it wouldn't get prioritized and funded, but it would be of interest to know that maybe 50 or 75 grand came from Cuyahoga County state homeland that otherwise would have gone to us. I just think it would be beneficial.
I can do that. It will take some time to actually do it that way.
Even if we just know by the 22nd.
Okay.
We don't need to know immediately, but when we go to the meeting on the 22nd, I think it'd be beneficial to say, hey guys, well, there's $350,000, $100,000 came from other county requests. So, we should go in with maybe putting in for a bigger ask, obviously, but we may actually curtail our request based on the needs and what the 5 counties come up with. That's all.
Okay. One of the other things that I would point out on this is there is really no way that we're going to be able to purchase anything to use up the money that is on State Homeland 17. So we are going to be asking the managers, and we'll also be asking Ohio. And remember, regardless of what we've decided at a local level, we'd be at CCESAB or be the 5 county emergency managers, the state is going to have to sign off on all this also. But we will be asking to shift some of the radio money that we spent from UASI to charge that against State Homeland 17 so that money doesn't have to go back to the state. So that's going to change the distribution, but I hear what you're asking, Chief, and I will get that together. I think another question that I have is there is about $65,000 on the table for a full-scale exercise. It's a joint exercise between USAR and HAZMAT, and that needs to be done by August 31st. As of this point, I'm not aware of any formal planning that has started. And if that project is going to be abandoned, it'd be better to abandon it now than to take and come back to us in August or September when we have to start going through this process all over again. So if we can if that committee could please follow up and let us know what's going on with that project, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Chief Vetter and Brian Harding and find out exactly what their plans with that. And that's the one that has to be expended by August 31st, correct?
Correct.
Of this year.
The project the project has to be completed by the 31st because those are reimbursements of overtime backfill. There's no way we'll get those expended by the end of the year if that exercise doesn't happen in August. And that's going to be putting all of your finance directors on a very aggressive schedule to get their reimbursement requests into us.
Chief, my suggestion on this is if there's not a definitive plan by the next time we meet, that 65 goes back into the pot, because we can't keep rehashing this over and over and over.
I agree, Alex. It's not an issue. I just want to make sure I just reach out to them to see if they come up shooting at the next, at the 22nd, they may have everything lined up, ready to go. This is our plan. This is it. It's unlikely, but I at least want to reach out to them and ask.
Completely agree.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to put that out there for everybody, because that would be the direction I'd want to head in. So we have one path through the end of the year, because this is 4 grants closing by the end of the year, and that's a lot of work. So gallivanting and lollygagging on getting exercises done, it's just not going to cut it this year.
And just to be clear, that 65,000, is that included in your estimate here, or is that in addition, in addition to, on top of?
That would be in addition to, on top of.
Okay, so we're looking potentially at 420,000.
Ballpark, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I know finance director.
433 for the firemen on the call.
433.
Yeah. I know my finance director wouldn't like me to rush it along.
He keeps taking shots at us, Mike.
I noticed that, Pat.
Yeah.
It's because
All
you guys
right.
don't shoot back. The
All
others
right.
have nice, but the guys with guns.
How is the 22nd work for everybody on this committee? I mean, is there any people that have like major issues? We need to make sure we have a quorum and the executive board can at least make it.
Not available until 3 p.m.
Okay, perfect. So 22nd it is, 2 o'clock or at 2 o'clock. Mayor Bain, are you able to make it?
Yes, I'm good at that time. April 22nd.
Here's what I would
at
add.
2.
Oh, sorry. For everybody is this is likely to be a long meeting. This is not going to be a short one, Mayor Ward, so I don't think you're going to miss the whole thing if you don't get here till 3. This may be one of those old tent revival meetings that we used to have when we had a bunch of money.
I can ensure I can get this meeting done by 3. Trust me.
Alex, are you putting money on this?
There's no way this group of people are going to get done in an hour over $433,000. 0% chance.
Anybody else in the executive board cannot make the 22nd?
I'm good.
Of April, we're talking about, right?
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay, great. And then what about the rest of the full CSEB? Anybody on full CSEB that definitely can't make it at 2 o'clock other than Mayor Ward?
Ellie will be there, Zoom.
All right, perfect. All right.
But seriously, are you expecting this like 2 hours or what are we looking at?
I mean, I think 2 hours is a pretty good estimate, Mayor Bain.
We'll try to get, I'll work with the county too, and Alex will work. We'll work together, try to make sure we have things as streamlined as possible so we can run a pretty tight meeting that day if possible. I think none of us want to drag it out longer than we have to, especially via Zoom, unless we have cocktails. All right. Anything else for grants or any questions regarding what they've laid out to us?
This would be a great time to remind everyone this is a recorded public meeting.
Oh, it gets me every time. All right, I just shut the agenda down. What's next on the agenda? Can someone let me know?
Agency liaison reports.
Any agency liaison reports? Coda, I think I saw Kevin Freeze on the call. Anything you want to report out, Kevin, for any of the agencies that you're aware of? Okay.
Hey, Chief Brian Claus, NeoRams just, I know so many people care, but they have not been able to meet in person during the pandemic. We hosted a virtual, the normal annual spring meeting is where we conduct exercises. That has been postponed to the fall due to just not being able to meet in person. However, the Maritime Law Enforcement Subcommittee has been meeting still regularly, monthly, to ensure waterside assets are being coordinated properly. They're heavily focused on the draft right now, as well as a potential increase in waterside operations during the summer. So just a quick water-based update, nothing significant to report.
Okay, if no other agency liaison reports, any old business? Hearing none, any new business? Okay.
Mike, one thing I would add is I know we had appointments for this year. Please make sure if you hadn't that the appointments go to Nicole and the designation of your alternate goes to Nicole. That way, when we're calling roll, if somebody's not here, we can make sure we still have quorum for the alternates too.
Yeah, and Just to note, do we need to make a motion or anything to establish a meeting on the 22nd? Or we just?
I believe we probably do.
Second.
We had a motion to have a meeting at 22nd at 2 o'clock with Mayor Ward. I didn't catch who seconded it.
Fred Zabel.
All right. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Plan on the meeting on April 22nd at 2 o'clock. All committees, please try to meet and have everything submitted to the county by the 20th at noon, or 21st, I'm sorry, 21st at noon. And be sure to work with the county for your committees so we can properly notice them and set up via Zoom, Teams, or whatever else. If no further business, move for adjournment.
Hey, Sergeant Mello, Sergeant Mello, please. I had another call. Are they going to send out the forms that we need to fill out for the grants? Can't hear you, Alex.
Yes.
They'll be
We'll
sent
send
out
it out.
right after this meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
And it would be worth noting that RTA is going to have a new police chief, Cleveland Police, Deidre Jones, Commander Jones, and recently former Deputy Chief Dion McCauley is now at Cleveland Clinic, for those that don't know. So some movement around with some familiar players, but they're in different roles. So thought that was worth sharing if you didn't already know.
Great, thank you. All right, I heard a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone. We'll see everybody on the 22nd.
Thanks, all.